Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. First of all, I would like to offer praise and gratitude to God Almighty who has bestowed His favor on us so that we can be present in this place and happy state. In advance, I would like to thanks to Bapak Yuswari Ojemat for allowing me to speak here, and I would like also to thank the audience for being present at this venue. Before I begin, I want to remind you all of the importance of maintaining the environment now to avoid anything bad that will happen. In addition, we must care about our surroundings in any case because that care will make our environment a healthy environment. One of the negative things that will be my topic in this conversation is about sexual violence that still exists around our environment, especially in Indonesia. In recent years, there have been many cases of sexual violence, especially against girls. The first thing I want to say is so much we care less about our environment so that these things can happen. Such a bad thing as sexual violence it happened because our lack of awareness of the environment and also our vigilance towards the environment itself. Then the second things I want to say is the most important things to parent. Why? Because the victims of the sexual violence are mostly underage and most of them are girls. This can happen because of the lack of supervision from parents toward the children and the lack of the closeness of the parents to their children. Firstly, I will talk about what sexual harassment is or sexual violence. Sexual harassment or sexual violence is an act that insult and attack the body of the person whose result is a physical pain in the victim. The location where this sexual violence occurs can anywhere. According to a study from the IJRS or Indonesian Judicial Research Society, showed 735 court ruling throughout 2018 until 2020. And in the result of the survey, it was found the sexual violence that occurred at home by 59.9%. From this, we can conclude that sexual harassment can be anywhere, even in house that is not a public place. In 2021, according to the Ministry of Women's Empowerment and Children Protection or common PPA, there were 8,730 children who had been victims of sexual violence. Here we can easily conclude that sexual violence is on the rise. ERGS research also found the majority of victims were underage women. Secondly, who is the perpetrator of play a role in sexual violence? The perpetrators of sexual violence are mostly from the victim's own environment. The perpetrator can come from close friend and even a family member. Forms of sexual violence that perpetrators can do such as hitting, slapping, kicking, and other physical violence. This is motivated by the great loss of the perpetrator who encouraged him to commit the act and violence to the victim. Perpetrator can also be emotionally and or psychologically violent. The action taken are in the form of the threats, humiliation, and degradation. Although this violence does not cause physical injuries, the mental illness is very fatal thing for the victim. Example of sexual violence committed by the perpetrator such as hugging, kissing, and groping by forcing the victim to have sexual intercourse. If the victim does not want to, then the victim will be threatened by the perpetrator. It is in the situation that sexual violence is defined. Ladies and gentlemen, so how can the victim struggle through all that? It is not easy for the victim to simply let go of what he has already experienced, because sexual violence attacks the physical and the mentality of the victim, which make the victim feel hopeless and unworthy to live life. In some cases, victims who experience despair tend to have the desire to end their lives. So in this case, it's important to pay attention from his environment in order to give him encourage and living his life and convince him that the future does not die for who is willing to fight. The impact caused by this sexual violence can also cause physical scars. The main factor in the presence of the sexually transmitted transmission. As for severe cases and cause damage to internal organs, it can occur. This is of course very dangerous for other victim because it can lead him to the death. Then the even more danger impact is the social impact. Victims of sexual harassment are poorly judged by the environment and shunned by their environment. For the victim of the sexual violence, getting along is the bad thing that he unlikely to do, because no one to accompany him and has been judged badly by his environment. So the choice that a victim has sexual assault must make is to be alone and accept that she and he is no longer worthy or her environment. Ladies and gentlemen, so what should we do if there are victims of sexual violence around us? Of course, we have to help him to get through what he is facing. We must be present as a people who can accompany and provide him with the solution is everything that the victim faces. The victim really needs a person who can be a medicine in every problem that the victim faces. We must be able to convince him that he experienced was not entirely his fault. It was an important basic because it was to give hope to him, at least hope. We should never judge the victim on any grounds, because it's very influential in building his mentality for the better. Of course, we have to give him a sense of security when the victim is around us. If the victim already feels safe, then what we need to do is to maintain that trust in order to keep believing in us to continue to provide a sense of security and comfortable. Sexual violence that can occur anytime and anywhere needs to be very vigilant early on. One of the effort for children, especially women, to be aware and be able to resist if there is a perpetrator who intend to commit the crime, is to teach about sex education against a child. Child need to know that there are some parts of their body that are sensitive and should not be touched by others. If the child has known, this is expected that when someone looks like he will attack him, for example, he can fight him or try to ask for help. This can reduce the child's trauma and psychological sense. Of course, we can reduce the sexual violence. What the conclusion is, we can draw. In this case, we are required to be concerned about the environment around us, where we should not judge others casually. We have to help others if we are in distress, and of course, we as human beings must cultivate and instill a sense of responsibility in ourselves as well as others. That's all. That's all I can say for the attention and opportunity. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.